It is the basic. It is the basis for a lot of atherosclerotic disease nowadays, especially in Pakistan. Atherosclerotic disease is being markedly rising, because of a lot of factors, the lifestyle and the stress itself, so and we oftenly prescribe statins. You all have gone through the pharmacology of statins. So so while prescribing, everybody should know what is the the pharmacology of the drug, and how does it act, and what are the current guidelines regarding the management. Okay, so let's go to the next slide. It's not moving. Okay, so today we'll cover the physiology of lipid metabolism, role of lipoproteins in atherosclerosis, hypolipidemic agents, indication and their side effects, screening and risk assessment, treatment paradigms, treatment of special. So, exogenous pathway of lipid metabolism. We have all gone through these pathways, and if we talk about uh, these cells which have been shown, the liver has got a major role in the the metabolism of its fight. So I'm going to now. I would like to discuss the practical points today. Okay, I'm just okay. I just want to change the pointer. Anyways, so right, they get distributed into fatty acids, ApoA, and then finally they go to the liver through the intestine and get metabolized. Okay, then there is a exogenous pathway, and as well as the endogenous pathway of the lipid metabolism. Okay, so everybody know this. Then there is HDL, higher density lipoprotein metabolism. Okay, this is also HMG-CoA reductase inhibitor. Okay, that's important. And then it reduces the enzyme, the HMG-CoA reductase enzyme reduces HMG-CoA to mevalonic acid in the rate-limiting step of cholesterol biosynthesis, mainly liver and intestine. As we have in the previous slide, I have shown you in the figure, right? Then lipoprotein lipase digest triglycerides score to very low density lipoproteins. Hepatic lipase conversion of LDL ideal to low density lipoprotein occurs, and then so on. Okay, so this is all the process. So we have to remember these enzymes. These are important. Okay, you may get these the names or of these enzymes in the scenarios or in the board exams. Okay, so you need to remember which enzyme is involved in HMG, which enzyme is involved in the triglycerides, then hepatic lipase. Okay, CETP transfer cholesterol ester. Okay, LCAT, apoprotein A, apoprotein B, C2. Okay, so these are the all enzymes which are involved in the lipid metabolism. LDL oxidation occurs in atherosclerosis. Okay, so this is also a very interesting slide that has been shown, that this native LDL gets into the vessel lumen endothelial through the endothelial cells, and then it causes the the vascular cells and the oxidants. It causes inhibit LDL oxidation. Okay, and then it leads to the formation and activation of atherosclerotic lesion. Okay, so LDL is the basis, and when we'll go through the current guidelines. Isolated LDL elevation is also a high risk group. Okay, so current guidelines have distributed 4 statin benefit groups. One of them is people who have isolated high LDL levels more than 190. Okay, so mechanism of atherogenic dyslipidemia. So these are all the slides. Let's go to the practical points. Increased heterogeneity of a small dense LDL. Okay, so there is a direct or indirect association. Okay, longer residence time in the plasma than normal size LDL due to decreased recognition by receptor in the liver, enhanced interaction with scavenger receptor promoting foam for cell formation, more susceptible to oxidation, enter and attach more easily to the arterial wall, and endothelial cell dysfunction. Indirectly, inverse relationship with the LDL. More the HDL, lower will be the LDL. Okay, it is the marker for atherogenic triglyceride accumulation and insulin resistance. High density lipoprotein, the good cholesterol. First, the cholesterol transport. It is involved in the maintenance of endothelial function. Okay, so HDL is a good cholesterol. It's if it's good in the blood, it will maintain the endothelial dysfunction. It will resist against the formation of atherosclerosis. Protection against thrombosis with apoprotein A inhibits generation of calcium-induced procoagulant activity on erythrocytes by stabilizing cell membrane. It lowered the blood viscosity by permitting red cell deformability. Okay, so if you remember biconcave disc shape of our red blood cells, so it reduces the blood viscosity and it inhibits the cell deformity. Okay, antioxidant properties may be related to enzyme called paraoxinase. Okay, paraoxinase. So this is all about lipoprotein A. Okay, why it is important? It is a specialized form of LDL, right? LDL, the bad cholesterol, covalently bound to the ApoB by disulfide bridge. Okay, so that's important. A structural similarity to plasminogen, thus interfering with the fibrinolysis, the macrophage binding and cholesterol deposition measured by ELISA method. Cross-sectional and retrospective epidemiologic studies have shown association between excess lipoprotein A and coronary heart disease, while prospective results are conflicting. So the novel biomarkers, apart from the other risk factors, the lipoprotein A is one of the novel biomarkers. So if the lipoprotein A is increased in the blood, it shows it has got an association with the coronary heart disease. It is associated with unstable angina and presence of complex coronary lesions, commonly detected in premature coronary artery disease. Okay, so premature coronary artery disease in young. Whenever you see, myocardial infarction in young patients, lipoprotein A should be sent and see how does it goes. Possible role in target organ damage in presence of hypertension. Okay, so associated risk factors with the lipoprotein A, people, it has got a high, morbidity. Indications for screening congenital coronary heart disease and no other identifiable risk dyslipidemia. I mean, if a patient comes with a coronary artery disease and the lipid profile is absolutely normal, you can send lipoprotein A. Strong his family history and no other dyslipidemia, hypertension and early premature target organ damage. Okay, so in young people with a suspected atherosclerotic heart disease, lipoprotein has got a clinical value. Okay, hypercholesterolemia refractory to statins and bile acid sequestrants. Right, these are the indications. Then treatment guidelines. Primary goal is to lower the HDL to target, and lowering to less than 80 may reduce the risk. Okay, so it should be less than 100 in a normal individual, and it should be less than 80 or less than 70 in a patient with a known coronary artery disease. So you should know the numbers. Okay, if LDL cannot become optimized, then lipoprotein A lowering with nicotinic acid should be tried, and goal should be less than 20. Primary disorders of LDL cholesterol metabolism, familial hypercholesterolemia, okay, familial defective apoprotein B100, familial combined hyperlipidemia. These are the primary disorders of LDL cholesterol metabolism. Statins, okay. So now come to the, the main topic we are going to discuss, the statins, competitive inhibitors of HMG CoA reductase, rate limiting step in cholesterol biosynthesis. Reduction in intrahepatic cholesterol. It is involved in reduction in the intrahepatic cholesterol, leading to increased LDL receptor turnover. Okay, so when there is increased LDL receptor turnover, there will be decrease in the blood levels of LDL. Most powerful lowering LDL cholesterol. Okay, statin. Modest effect on raising HDL. That is okay. So HDL can be raised by exercise and by taking a few nuts like walnuts, okay, almonds. So, but if you prescribe statin, slightly it can raise HDL level as well. Also, reduction in triglycerides due to decreased VLDL synthesis and clearance of VLDL remnants by apoprotein B receptors. Okay, so apart from LDL and other bad cholesterol, it also reduces the triglyceride levels. Okay, so most of the time we give fibrates in the treatment of triglyceridemia, but statins can also reduce triglycerides. Reduction in oxidized and small dense LDL subfractions and reduce remnant lipoprotein cholesterol levels. Okay, so this is all statins work. Comparable efficacy of statin. This is a very interesting chart. Okay, the efficacy of 6 currently available statin drugs. Okay, so rosuvastatin, atorvastatin, simvastatin, lovastatin, parvastatin, and fluvastatin. Okay, so and how does it reduces? If you see, interestingly, so currently the guidelines says, which were published in 2013 by American Heart Association, that there are 3 categories for statin. Statins with the high intensity statin, moderate intensity statin, and low intensity statin. To remember, high intensity statins are only 2, atorva and rosuva. Okay, so just remember, high intensity statins are those statins which can reduce the cholesterol level 50% from the baseline, and these are only 2, atorva and rosuva. So if you see the dosage, at a dose of 40 rosuvastatin and at a dose of 80 atorvastatin reduces the maximum LDL levels. Okay, 55% and 63%. So in atherosclerotic heart disease, we recommend, the guidelines recommend actually, high intensity statin, that is atorva and rosuva. And what are their doses? 20 to 40 rosuvastatin is high intensity statin, and 40 to 80. Most of the trial 80 milligrams are atorvastatin. Okay, so you should know what are high atorva and rosuvastatin, and they decreases 50% of the cholesterol from the baseline. Okay, so atorva and fluvastatin does not need any renal dosing. It use is in chronic liver disease. Rosuva in chronic, if a patient has got a hepatic disease, so parvastatin and rosuvastatin can be used. All right. Well, less drug interactions are with parvastatin, fluvastatin, and rosuvastatin. It does not metabolize via CYP3A4. It has got a less muscle toxicity, parvastatin and fluvastatin. So those patients who get the side effects of a statin, parvastatin and fluvastatin can be used. Rosuva, atorva, and fluvastatin are comparatively cheaper. Okay, so these are all the benefits. So evidence in primary prevention. Okay, everybody of you, I hope, know what is primary prevention and what is secondary prevention. Primary prevention, we do primary prevention when before the incident has happened. Okay, we know that MI can occur. So if a person has not gone any event in the past and he has got risk factors, so we by modifying the risk factors, we do primary prevention. Okay, I hope you're getting my point. So there were a lot of studies in the past that has been done on statins. Okay, it has got a very strong role in primary prevention of this disease. Okay, so these are the names of the trial. Okay, I'm not going into the details. Okay, but 31% risk reduction in coronary deaths and non-fatal MI. Okay, this study was done, and benefit is more in treating mild hypertension, but 3 times less than that in 4S study. 4S was a famous study that was done in on statin. Acha. Air Force Texas coronary atherosclerosis prevention study. Okay, 37% risk reduction in coronary events. Very huge number. Okay, these are all the list of the trials that have been done. Okay, Scandinavian Simvastatin Survival Study, SSSS, 4S study. This is very famous study. Total mortality was 8 versus 12% in patients who were taking the statins. They had reduced number of mortality. Major events were reduced in the 4S group, and coronary heart disease deaths 42% lower, and revascularization was 37%, like 2.7 versus 4.3. Okay, so these are all the CARE study, lipid study, heart protection, HPS. Okay, this is also famous. All of these have shown marked reduction in the mortality. Okay, so mechanism of benefit of statin in secondary prevention. Okay, once the event has occurred, once the acute myocardial infarction and other atherosclerotic disease, so it reduces the atherosclerosis, the plaque it has got a role in plaque stabilization. It reduces the inflammation, decreased thrombogenicity, reversal of endothelial dysfunction, and then it reduces the monocyte addition to the endothelium. If we go more at the cellular level, it reduces the oxidative modification of LDL, increased mobilization and differentiation of endothelial progenitor cell, leading to new vessel formation. Okay, so these are all the benefits of a statin. Adverse effects. What are the adverse? Whenever you prescribe any drug, okay, you should know all the side effects of the drug, and you need to tell them to the patient. Okay, in general, myopathy, okay, hepatic, like 4.5 to 3% persistent elevation in aminotransferase like SGPT in first 3 months and dose dependent. Several randomized trials have found no difference compared with placebo. FDA recommends LFTs before and 12 weeks after starting and with any dose elevation and periodically. Okay, so whenever you prescribe a statin, you need to know the hepatic function is normal. Okay, just remember this thing. Okay, and also the myopathy. If a patient comes with myalgias and so you have to look into it. Okay, few weeks after the form after the therapy. Then CNS. Okay, case reports of memory loss associated with statins have been shown. So let's go to the next slide. Fibric acid derivatives like fibrates. Okay, so fibrates have been given in patients with a hypertriglyceridemia. It decreases triglyceride 35 to 50%, raise HDL level 15 to 25%, increases LDL buoyancy. It improve endothelial function and favorable effect on macrophage response. Okay, so what are the agents? Fibrates, gemfibrosal, fenofibrate. Gemfibrosal have been given in 600 milligram BID dose, while fenofibrate have been given 200 milligram capsules. Okay, or 67 milligram it's available, right? QD. Side effects are gallstone formation and dyspepsia, diarrhea, nausea, vomiting, GI symptoms. So you have to tell these things to the patient while prescribing, right? Adverse drug interaction occurs. It inhibits glucocoordination, curonidation of lipophilic statins and increases levels. Thus, risk of myopathy has been increased. Also decreases warfarin by 30%. Okay, so it has got a if a patient is on warfarin along with a fibrate, you have to be careful because it decreases warfarin by 30%. Bile acid sequestrants have also been used in patients to lower the LDL. In In patients who are, having side effects of statins and fibrates, bile acid can be a second option. Okay, so this is also a practical point, which can be asked in the exams. Like if a patient has got side effects or contraindication for statin, so bile acid secretin can be used. Okay, what are those? Cholestyramine, okay, cholestyramine, and cholecalciferol. Okay, so these are the agents which are available, bile acid sequestrants. What are the adverse effects? Usually, it has got limited use, as we discussed. So mainly GI symptoms. It increases the liver enzyme, and it has got a drug interaction with digoxin, warfarin, and fat-soluble vitamins. Contraindications in patients with elevated triglycerides. If a patients who are having triglyceridemia, bile acid sequestrants should not be given. Okay, so it can only be given in patients who need uh, have got a normal triglycerides with raised HDL. Nicotinic acid is another agent that can be used in patients with dyslipidemia. Okay, so you should remember statins, fibrates, bile acid sequestrants, and then nicotinic acid. Okay, it inhibits hepatic VLDL production and its metabolite LDL. Okay, so it acts at VLDL, raises HDL, increase in LDL size, reduction in plasma fibrinogen levels. Formulation and dosing are Niacor, Niaspan. These are the doses. Side effects are flushing, nausea, elevated hepatocellular enzymes, insulin resistant, hyperuricemia, hypertension. Ezetimibe, very commonly used. Okay, so this is another agent. It impairs dietary and biliary cholesterol absorption at the brush border of the intestines without affecting triglyceride or fat soluble vitamins. Okay, so it acts at the brush border of the intestines. Possible, it decreases LDL 15 to 20%. Trivial effects on LDL and triglycerides. Okay, it also adjunctive therapy to statins, but same effect with higher dose of statin, as in one study, 10 milligram of ezetimibe and 10 milligram atorvastatin has got the same effect as 80 milligram of atorvastatin. So as a combination, it's available as a combination as well, and combination with the atorvastatin has got good results. Okay, 20% absorption, so lower side effect profile has key, and high incidence of myopathy and elevated transaminases when co-administered with the statin. Should not be used as a first line agent. Okay, so never use ezetimibe as a first line agent. Check LFT prior to starting the combo with the statin. No definite clinical outcome studies available. Okay, so effect of lifestyle modification. Okay, above all, I would say today in the today's lecture that lifestyle modification is top of the line. I mean, apart from all the drug treatment, if you do effective lifestyle modification, you would be able to get rid of the dyslipidemia. What are these? Decrease saturated fat. Okay, replace saturated and trans-saturated fats with unhydrogenated monosaturated or polyunsaturated fat. So there are different diets. Like dietary cholesterol should be less than 200. Whole grains, fruits, veggies, 50 to 60% total calories. Dietary fiber is important. Protein, plant stenols. Okay, effect of LDL loading should be evident in 6 to 12 months by lifestyle modification. Elevated BMI associated with decreased dietary response. Okay, if a lifestyle modification and diet modification is not being worked, so elevated BMI would be key. It can give you a clue that it's not working, right? Then you should be referred to the dietitian. Okay, exercise, most important. In a prospective study of 111 sedentary men and women with dyslipidemia randomized to different levels of exercise, decrease in VLDL and triglyceride and increase in LDL size observed. Increase in HDL and size and largest effect on LDL seen with high amount of high intensity exercise, right? So mechanism of benefit: reduction in CETP, elevation in LCAT, reduced hepatic lipase, and elevated LPL activity. So in a cut short, lifestyle modification, you know, it's recommended in patient with dyslipidemia. Diet supplements: fish oil, soya, garlic, it's very important. Cholesterol lowering margarines, then other agents like soluble fiber, nuts, walnuts, green tea. Overall, a combination of diet with multiple cholesterol lowering agent causes much more significant LDL reductions. So, how do we the measurement of lipoprotein? Okay, so let's skip this slide. Screening recommendation. Okay, so fasting lipid profile at least once or 5 yearly for all person 20 years or older than 20 years. In non-fasting and total cholesterol more than 200 and LDL less than 40. So it should be recommended if a total cholesterol is more than 200. If no known coronary artery disease, so these are the cutoff values. Okay, so you should remember the total cholesterol should be less than 200. The LDL should be less than 100 in normal individuals and less than 70 in patients with known coronary artery disease. Okay, risk assessment: symptomatic coronary artery disease, peripheral arterial disease, aortic arterial disease, diabetes, multiple risk factors. The major risk factors that are involved other than LDL is smoking, hypertension. If HDL low, that is also a risk factor. Family history of premature coronary artery disease. Everybody you should know, when do we call family history of positive? If a coronary heart disease in man in a first degree relative less than 55 years, if a woman less than 65 years of age, then we call it as uh, uh, premature coronary artery disease. Okay, so then other potential risk factors: coronary renal insufficiency is also a risk factor. Okay, then obesity, physical inactivity, impaired fasting glucose, markers for inflammation. Okay, these are all the risk factors that should be addressed. Let's go to the next slide. I'm not going to the details. Framingham ATP point score in man. New guidelines for the LDL goal. Okay. You should go through the newer guidelines. Okay. The optimal, as I told you, it should be less than 100 in normal individuals, in less than 70 in people with a coronary heart disease. Okay. So these all were the trials that were done: reversal, prove it, HPS, on the basis of which the guideline have been published, or so these are the background on these were the studies on which the newer guidelines are published. So statins are first choice, and selection is based on extent of LDL reduction. Okay, 30 to 35% decrease in LDL cholesterol with equivalent doses. Titrate statin dose at 3 to 4 week intervals. Okay, so you can increase. Okay, starting, there are two approaches: start with a low dose and up titrate, or if a patient comes with an acute event, with the acute MI, like you can start with a high dose, like rosuvastatin can be given in 20 to 40 milligram, and atorva can be given 40 to 80 milligrams. Okay, doubling the statin dose reduce LDL an additional 6%. Okay, if you double the dose, consider adding second agent instead of dose increase. Okay, so combination can be given. Variable drug response depends on endogenous versus exogenous hypercholesterolemia. Okay, so there's a difference as we discussed earlier. Then second agents may include bile acid resins, ezetimibe, plantastenol. Niacin may be added as a third agent if needed. Okay, so people ask that what are the other options? So lower down niacin could be an option. Then we see combined mixed dyslipidemia. So hypertriglyceridemia, HDL So both can be seen in the same patient. Okay, so combined therapy can be given. So statin titration dose or a statin fibrate or a statin niacin combination, so different approaches have been used. In triglyceridemia, we have discussed, we give fibrates and in a different, there are two fibrates available, phenofibrates and, jam fibrosol. So, but you should rule out the secondary causes, okay, of hypertriglyceridemia, like obesity, diabetes, nephrotic syndrome, hypothyroidism were one of the most common cause of triglyceridemia. Estrogen replacement can also cause beta blockers, glucocorticoids, cyclosporin. Okay, so these agents can cause secondary triglyceridemia. Okay, so whenever you are dealing with the hypertriglyceridemia, first rule out these conditions. Isolated low HDL. Okay, so there are a lot of conditions which can lead to isolated low HDL levels. Okay, so if it's less than 40, so metabolic syndrome or obesity, so a lot of factors that have been involved, right? So you should ask the patient to have a good exercise, right? Take good nuts, healthy diet, lifestyle modification. All these can lead to a better HDL. Okay. Treatment guidelines. So how and when to treat. Okay. Always consider secondary causes of dyslipidemia. All patients with LDL above the target goal with adequate trial of lifestyle modification, but concomitant drug therapy may be appropriate. Okay, so apart from the drug therapy, lifestyle modification should always remain on the top. Okay, so I'm not going into the details. These are basically the up titration. Okay, you have to follow once you treat. Okay, so follow the lipid profile, follow the liver enzymes, follow the renal functions, right? These were the trials that were done in patients with ACS. See, in patients with ACS, atorvastatin 80 milligrams should be started soon after the hospitalization. Okay, so most of the trials in atorva were done on 80 milligrams. Okay, so that's how the basis of the high intensity statin therapy. In elderly, it should be individualized based on chronologic and physiologic age. Okay, so secondary prevention studies support the treatment. Like CARE study showed 50% patients more than 60 derived similar benefits as in younger patients. Cardiovascular health study showed benefit in primary prevention in more than 65 years of age. All major statin trial and VA HIT trial have shown reduction of atherothrombotic stroke with lipid lowering agents. ATP3, very famous study, recommends diet as a first line of primary intervention, but drugs can be considered. Okay. And underutilization of lipid-lowering drugs in elderly due to concern of safety and time goes to the benefit. Okay, so a lot of people don't take statin because of the side effects, but that's how the underutilization occurs. And I have a study that I have done in underdose statin in patients with atherosclerotic disease, and it has shown markedly, 50% of the patients are not on the appropriate drugs. Okay, so you remember. Okay, remember the targets, remember the goals, remember the groups, 4 statin benefit groups. We can discuss some other times, and what are the high, intermediate, and low intensity therapy. Because in even my study and worldwide, 50% of the patients are not taking appropriate doses of the statin. So how can we improve this? We can improve this by patient education, repeatedly, early follow-ups, and awareness programs, by telling the people of the hazards of the dyslipidemia. Okay, so we can do projects as well. If any one of you is interested in any project, you can coordinate with me, and we can work together for the better management, and for the awareness of these hazardous agents, right? And we can do study, we can do health awareness programs over it. So diabetes mellitus. Okay, so it's add on with dyslipidemia. So whenever we ask what are the risk factors, there's hypertension, diabetes mellitus, smoking, and dyslipidemia and family history. Okay, these are the 5 major risk factors for atherosclerotic disease. So, we have to be careful if a patient is already having a diabetes and dyslipidemia. Metabolic syndrome, we all know, okay? So it's all related to with the dyslipidemia, like obesity, diabetes, and, disturbed or lipid. Hyperlipidemia and nephrotic syndrome is very important. Whenever you read and go through the nephrotic syndrome, people have got dyslipidemia. So there is an association of nephrotic syndrome with dyslipidemia. CRF and a patient who are on dialysis, they have got disturbed, lipid levels. So nowadays, there are evolving methods for risk assessment, like, total HDL cholesterol, non-HDL, as I told you, apolipoprotein A measurement. These are the novel biomarkers, high sensitive CRP. So nowadays, the newer, assessment tools have been coming, So now these are the trials which shows ongoing statin treatment trial, emerging lipoprotein gold trials. So they are working on, strict, high intensity statins with a strict lipid control, right? So the last one was the Jupiter. Investigational issues: to what extent should plasma level of LDL can be lowered by therapy to afford optimal risk reduction? Okay. So as we discussed, like, it should be more than 50%. Can risk assessment be improved by using novel risk markers? This is also important, we don't do routinely these CRP and apoprotein measurements. Okay. Should the metabolic syndrome be considered a high risk state warranting aggressive intervention? Yes. Awaiting prospective trial investigating the preventive benefits of lipid altering treatment metabolic syndrome. COMETS trial have been under the consideration. So that's all. I would like to thank. I hope I have completed my class on time, and I would love to take questions if there are any questions. Yes, Tariq.